What is up, Overwatch community? Welcome back to another episode of Watchpoint. My name is Trips, and we've got a little bit of information to talk about on this week's cast about the placement games and people getting thrown into random situations or the placement games not counting in some people's circumstances. But before we get into that, I want to welcome back once again Vultcha.
Hello.
And Yiska.
Hello.
So it's been a little bit of a break. Before we jump immediately into the news, did you guys play a lot over? Well, I know Yiska didn't really affect you too much last week, but Vultcha, did you play a bit since our last cast? Have you played PTR? Have you played not Sombra? Have you played the new Symmetra at all? We're not going to focus too much on her, but
I haven't played any PTR, unfortunately. Just been doing quick play and messing around with what might work for a team comp. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Yeah, because that ship's kind of sailed, but have you played a bit of Symmetra or PTR at all, Yiska?
No, I haven't. Like the reason that Symmetra is on the PTR in the current iteration is enough reason to not play it, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they
even
have
though
it
it's beautiful.
Yeah, and they just released Oasis too. They have it a bit weird to where I don't know if it's 100%, but every game that I've only played like 3 games last night, but every game that I played was all Oasis. So they might have it locked to Oasis and basically testing out Symmetra. Ever since the new patch, it's kind of become almost useless to play on the PTR. Like it's either people trolling or people fighting for Symmetra, and then usually people hop off. She's pretty broken, but Oasis is cool.
Okay.
Besides that, nothing really too new other than Season 3 launched, and I first heard about it on Unit Lost's video, to where, I mean, he always kind of has this mentality of, don't think about it, just play the game, have fun, do your best, which is, the kind of mentality you should have in general, because if you get too serious, then you'll focus too hard and you'll even screw up yourself. But it's kind of gone an extreme route where I think it was IDDQD played his placement matches, and he lost 6 of them, drawed 2 and won 2, and still got like 4.2K.
4.4K.
4.4K, which, I mean, obviously he's a good player, but it looked weird to people because, people who won 8 matches and lost 2 or something, they still only got, 3.5 or something or even less than that. Yeah. So it's weird that it seems like it's taking in not your season high from last year or last season, but your ending rating. So it's weird. There's people saying that, it is how it should be. There's people who are saying like the placement matches, what's the point of it? It doesn't even matter. There's not even like a soft reset or anything. What are your guys' opinions on it?
Well, it sounds to me like the seasons are just a formality at this point, and they're pretty much foregoing any idea of an actual reset, which we can get into later. But as far as that goes, that's interesting, and it's kind of interesting the disappointments people are having with it. I feel like players, when it comes to ladder resets, they get a little bit hopeful, maybe get a little bit like gambler-like, and feel like they're like, okay, ooh, what am I going to get this season? How am I going to start? What if I win all 10? Am I going to be Grandmasters? Am I going to win the lottery? I kind of feel like people feel that way in a typical game ladder with placement match scenario. So if they have a bad season the season before or bad season, they always have the reset to look forward to kind of come in hot on a new, better ranking, I guess. That's what I feel like a lot of players are kind of expecting out of the system.
Yeah, I think it's quite strange that people consider it weird that it would be the last rating, and the idea that you would go off your highest rating achieved in the last season makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah,
You're not punishing the trolls, which you obviously want to do. Like if someone says you're like, oh, okay, I'm not getting Masters this season, might as well troll for the last couple of games. Okay, do you really not want to punish them in that sense? Then also, like, the idea of a matchmaking is to make the most competitive games. Why would you then not choose the level which is the closest to the new, aside or placement matches you want to have, that is the best data that you have. Why would you like if I peak in the first week of the season and then continually drop, and then 7 weeks later, or I don't know how long the season now was, why would I then be judged on the highest rating? That makes absolutely no sense to me. In general, I think it's quite okay. It's a little bit anticlimactic, I have to say. In a sense, I think there's waiting going on, in a sense. So these matches actually matter more than, for instance, your last matches of the last season in terms of, rating gain or rating swing. And there is this gambler's, attraction in that. But Blizzard made it actually quite forgiving in a sense, or there's really, really just a very soft reset in that sense, I think. Or that's at least has been my experience with the rating system so far.
It seems to me that the placement matches, maybe they function just like regular matches. So they just take your SR from the end of the season, and then there's 10 normal matches that play out, and they add or subtract to that SR, and then maybe they just say, okay, divide that number by 5% and take away 5%. Like, just so you have something to build up, an incentive to play the ladder to, like, go up from a number that you might be unhappy with. So, in that sense, it's probably exactly the same as like a regular match, in my opinion.
I mean, I've heard the I've heard the people saying that it's actually placement matches have a bit more weight to them. So if you win, you get a bit more. But if you lose too many in a row, you lose a lot more. But that's still just the way that, people are presenting it, the way that people are seeing, like, the end of season rating to the new rating. It doesn't matter at all. People have lost 8 games and won 2 and only went down 100 rating or something. So it really brings to the question, like, what's the point of seasons? I guess seasons as far as, keeping it maybe 6 months, maybe a year or something like that. But what's the point of these 2 to 3 month long seasons if the placement games don't matter? You're waiting for the next season. Just make it like, League of Legends, or hell, make it just like Dota, where there's no reset other than once a year. I don't know. It just kind of feels like they tried to throw in the Hearthstone mentality, where it's like you always can reset and try to get, to that higher ranking. But you're not really resetting if you're only bouncing down or up 100 to 200 at most.
Yeah.
I would guess they did this almost like for a marketing / PR reason. Like, they want people to be excited about the idea of a reset and the whole gamble type idea of the placement match, and the idea of placing is kind of interesting to a lot of players. Last night, this cast is going to be a little bit later, but last night it went live. Was it last night? Yeah, it was last night. Yep. They went live, and my friends list was like filled with all of the Overwatch friends that I've made over the years that hadn't, not years, but pretty close, that have like stopped playing as of like the last month or whatever, just because they're bored. So like in that way, it kind of infuses the community with some like hype in some way, and doing it pretty frequently can get people pretty engaged, I imagine.
Yeah, it's weird because while I get it, they're trying to smooth out the bell curve. That's another big thing too, is that people are like, I was plat, why am I silver now? Well, honestly, you probably got placed poorly, and you're unfortunately one of the few that, got upset and such. But it's weird because you have one of two ways. Either you don't have the seasons and you just continuously try to grind ladder, but then I feel like people are going to fall out because if they're too focused on their numbers and they're not gaining anything, if they're like stagnating for a while and then they quit and they come back, and obviously that time that they were away, they didn't learn anything, so they're still stagnating, you're going to get people who are just going to leave altogether. But at the same time, do we really want a full, complete ladder wipe every 3 months? Is that what people really want?
No, because the alternative would obviously be to then have Grandmaster players in your game that just absolutely stomp everything.
Yeah.
And while I can appreciate an experience because that is basically the most effective learning you could ever have, playing against top players and then watching your footage back, it's still very likely not going to fly with the community, or not too many people would be fond of it, obviously.
Yeah.
Right. So especially because prior rank is so, especially in the opposing team, it's so hard to see what the rank before was, right? Are you really going to look at every single profile and then assess if the player was like great last season and just was lower rated and now is grinding back to what it was? Because in a sense they do this in League of Legends, right? Whenever a new season starts, even the best of the best start in like platinum and have to grind up again.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this feeling of a race again. In Overwatch, I think Blizzard has for themselves found out that the season system works quite well in every single game they have. It's in Diablo, it's in Hearthstone, it's in Heroes
WoW.
of the Storm. Yeah, I guess content patches are sort of like that.
No, in WoW they have PvP seasons. I mean, some of them
obviously
have lasted a long time, but
yeah, and they've. I think it's completely supported by data that this is actually a boost, and I very much observe, or even in myself observe, that I have newfound drive to play the game again, and also, to be honest, this 1 week of not being able to play, just not having the option to play, is so strangely what it does to your I don't know, your attitude
routine
towards the thing. Yeah, it's not like simply because I couldn't play, and quick play is really still not the same in the same sense, because people still care significantly less. There was now a much bigger urge for me to play, and obviously if you have these seasons and that there are the rewards, right, with the golden guns, and that's why you do them too, right? I would like it more if the seasons actually had something to do with content patches, because even though what Matchroom said, it still rings with me that this is true. Yes, it would mean that that you limit your major content patches to season length. At the same time, it really rubbed me the wrong way that we got the season final on a completely new patch with new strength, with a completely new character, right? And this is exactly where it accentuates or makes certain players simply perform better than the entire season would have had them, right? And this is where rating inflates for some players, and some drop down, or if they notice that this is not the patch they're playing on, then they're just not going to play the last week in fear of, not finishing high or something.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know. I guess because you were saying also that, and I've seen a couple people on Reddit before it died, that even though people are being placed, if they, let's say, lower than what their season final was, they're still, I've seen people say that they get like 80 SR for a win and they only lost 15 if they lose. So there has to be some type of like balancing mechanic in the normal games too. So I really wonder if the placement games are finding you a rank and then, like Vultcha said, like cutting off a nice layer of that, and there's some background system that's pulling you towards that rank, where if you win, you're going up to whatever invisible rank they have you at, but if you lose, they're not trying to push you farther down. But maybe if you pass that rank, you won't win. Obviously the higher you get, unless you're on a win streak, you're not going to continue to get 80, 80, 80, or you'd climb ridiculously fast.
The whole system is so obscure that it makes me like speculate and wonder if there's like multiple ladders going on. Like, is there like a shit tier master league? Is there a god tier master league? Like, because like, it could maybe be that there's like shit masters and good masters. We couldn't really know unless we played them, I guess, because I mean, the fudging they're doing, it's almost like what's it based on? So like their algorithm decides, this person they ranked this, they had this rank at the end of the season, but we kind of think that was high for them for some reason, so we're going to punish them a little bit on losses. Or this person was underranked for some reason, so they're going to get more for these wins. It seems like that sort of stuff's coming into play, and there's also the whole hero individual like match impact thing going on that like I'm sure that they'll never figure out completely correctly. So I don't know, it's a mess. I just wish it was just simply when you go up like certain points, and then if the other team is like that point, it's like so like here's your opponent. If you win against your opponent, you're even, you go up like 1 point or something like that equivalent, not some crazy thing based on your character, your individual impact. And then if they're up here, maybe you get some sort of modifier. And it was pretty laid out how that worked, because I mean, I don't know, confusing is not good. Obscurity and like just smoke and mirrors is not good, in my opinion. I don't like
they
it.
could never reveal exactly how, if it's like, okay, you are placed, or you get SR from a win based on how many medals you earn, what value of those medals, and how long you were on fire, and if you won. If those were like the 3 determining factors, people would game the shit out of them. Yes. That's why I feel they can't say it, because I think I have talked about this before on the cast, but there was a point in Dota where your placement matches were based off of how much damage you did for if you picked like a carry role. And so people would pick Zeus, and he had like a map wide he hit R, and his ult was he lightning striked every enemy. And so people would just build like the most damage possible in cooldown reduction and just hit R as many times as possible. And they would just get a shitload of ranking for no reason. And so that's the kind of thing I feel like they're trying to prevent.
Well, they might be supporting it. Like, there's a lot of like Junkrat mains up in High Diamond that just play Junkrat, and maybe they're just there from playing so much Junkrat and it favoring having a lot of damage in a match. And so, like, your Junkrat, you're going to get a lot of damage no matter what, so you get gold damage every single match. Maybe that affects your SR in the end after 100 matches.
Yeah. The thing is, I think it should be, in a sense, I have to disagree. I think it should be quite obscure how it works, because there's certain, like, if you had full transparency, the gaming system would be absolutely ridiculous, because there's also the possibility, and I know for a fact that this was true for other ladder systems in games I've played in the placement matches, you had weighted. So these games were more weighted, but also within these 10 games, for instance, the first one was higher weighted than the second one, and then, the 10th being the least. So basically what they would do is, okay, first game is like, okay, is this dude in Plat or Masters? Like a rating swing, okay, if I had to translate it, it's like 500 rating. Did he win against Masters? Okay, I guess we place him in Masters. Okay, is he mid-masters or is he high masters? Is he low masters? Next game decides that. And then after that, okay, is he medium high or is he, smaller and smaller increments. So if you lose your first game and then win 9 consecutive ones, you could be lower ranked even if you were at the exact same rating as another guy that won the first 9 and lost the last.
Yeah.
Something like this could be going on. And if you have the knowledge of this, just imagine what toxicity this would trigger, right? If I'm on my first placement match and some guy leaves, dude, I'm fighting his house, I'm fighting his dog's name. Dude, that pooch is going to eat some laxatives.
You're going to buy another Overwatch account.
Yeah, for instance, like this, right? If I lose my first my first match, and obviously it's not that ridiculous. I can almost with 100% certainty say that it doesn't work in this way, and the weighting, if there is some, doesn't feel like they really make too big differences between the first and the last game. But that is also one info I would love to have of the IDDQD score is which games did he win? Did he lose the first? Did he lose the second? Did he draw the first? And then what also people don't realize is that this system is very, very different at the top. Because if you're at the top, as IDDQD is, and you're queuing, there's already a very small pool of players you can play against. So if the only pool of players that is available to you within, let's say, 200 rating is a stack of players of your skill rating, then you can't be at, like, the system can't add people that are individually higher than the stack, because there are no people individually higher than a stack. So how do you match those? The game is always going to be obviously in favor of the stack then, and the way the system fixes this issue is by giving IDDQD more points if he wins, or subtracts significantly less points for losing, because there's no way to, you know, match these people. So if IDDQD is like, let's pick the most extreme case. If he loses a game against the first 6 players on the ladder because they are full stack, and there's obviously no team that could be assembled around him that has a higher rating, because there are no players that have a higher rating, he would lose probably like 2 points or something, right? That would be only be fair, because at the top there's no way to balance these systems, and I think that is the primary reason why he was getting away with such a bad score and such a high rating, right? Yeah. And people have been talking about, okay, number of games or something. I don't particularly think that has much to do with that. Maybe number of games in a recent time frame or something, right? That could be it. Or everything could be a little bit of a factor in this huge algorithm that they have. But people need to realize that the algorithm we see, or the effect, is very, very different at the top level than it is for us average scrubs, right?
Yeah. The thing that I don't get is, okay, this is a very rare case, and I'm just adding a what if to the situation. What happens if someone is a Masters player or Diamond player? They quit for a season, or, come back in the middle of a season and lose all of their games. Why are they then placed in, let's say, like low Diamond? Why are they not placed in gold or silver?
Yeah, I think it would be quite hard for me. For instance, my case wasn't that different, right? I had, I think I finished season 1 at 75. And then in season 2, I played like the beginning, and then I got a bad case of repetitive strain injury, and then I didn't play at all for the rest of season 2. And now I'm seeing some weird stuff happening with my MMR. And at the same time, people could surely argue that now when I play, I don't play at the same level that when I left, right? Yeah. That is entirely a reasonable assumption.
Yeah. I mean, the argument, it could say that, oh, yeah, you might get placed decent, but you're just going to slowly fall down the ladder. But you're also slowly dragging a couple people with you. Because if you are in those ranks that you don't belong in, you're just losing games for people that they shouldn't have lost. They should have been playing with Diamond players, not some guy that was Diamond a long time ago.
That's if they figure your SR and not your hidden elo, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like maybe that goes back to the whole like different ladders thing. Maybe like the elo is the thing that governs 100% gains and losses at a comparative level. Maybe
that's a good question too, right? The SR decays, right? After a couple of weeks, you decay till you can't go any lower. So if you were Diamond, you'd have 3K. Just permanently. You couldn't drop lower, right? Does the hidden MMR also drop with that?
Yeah.
Right? So So because what I'm seeing right now is that it actually doesn't. I decay down to 3k, and when I win now, I get ridiculous points to get me back to my elo I had before, right? That's the only assumption I can make that reasonably explains how I'm seeing these numbers right now. I don't think hidden MMR actually has the decay function in it.
Oh.
Because that is also not what you want realistically. Okay, there's such a thing as real skill decay, but the system also wants to put you into your real spot as fast as it possibly could, right? I think the real issue arises if you're like AFK for 2 seasons, let's say, in the future.
Yeah. Well, that'd be different because if it's drawing, let's say it is, because a lot of people claim it's drawing off your previous final SR. If you don't have a previous final SR, you might completely reset unless it's drawing off of both, like 2 seasons away now.
Yeah, just the last SR or last hidden MMR you had.
Yeah. Is there? I mean, we can speculate on this, what's hidden and all that other stuff, but is there a better system? Is there a better way to? I mean, Vultcha, I know you said you kind of just want wins and losses, and then if it's you win against someone who's, you know, way high above you, you get a bonus for beating them because technically you shouldn't have lost. It was like, or you shouldn't have won. It's an upset.
There are problems with that system, as you just outlined at the top. Like, that sort of system can be pretty problematic. You know, you can kind of farm with that sort of effect. Like, I'm on at like 10 in the morning when like nobody good's on, and the queue, you just wait 15-20 minutes for a queue, and then you just popped against some ugly assholes that can't even like hold a mouse, and then you get like 2 SR after like a 20-minute match. You know, you just do that all the time. You could grind. There's that, and then there's like the comparative stuff that happens at the top. But I still like it better than what I'm seeing now. It feels like as a player, there's a lot out of my control that affects my rank. Like, I want to feel like if I win, my rank goes up. If I lose, my rank goes down. And at a pretty steady rate. Yeah. It feels really arbitrary that, like, if I win, I'm going to get, like, a whole buttload of points, or if I lose, I get a whole buttload of points, or no points, and it's somewhat seemingly arbitrary because I don't know the mechanisms affecting it.
But how would you balance that? So let's say you compare 2 losses. You lose one because double stack gets super salty at your team and leaves. So you just instantly lose the game. Right, and let's say you lose 10 to 15 SR. The next game, you lose again, but it was a well-fought match. It's a King of the Hill. It goes 2-2, and you guys are, you know, overtime on both points. And do you still think that you should lose just that same 10 to 15?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe I'm just an abnormal type of player who is okay with that, because, I mean, like, I don't know. Games have maybe like gaming communities have maybe like jaded me over the years to the point where I expect assholes to happen, and it kind of happens a lot. And I kind of realize
it's not supposed to happen often.
Yeah, but I understand, like, if that happens to me, you know, probably it's going to happen to my opponent at some point too. So like, whatevs. Yeah. But I mean, that still feels like I have agency within the system more than like whatever's happening now, because like the 2 people rage and drop, that's not going to happen as often as like me looking at that number every single time I play a ranked game. Because like every time I look at the number, I'm going, what is this? What does this mean? Oh, it's going up somehow for some reason because we won. So I don't know. That feels less crazy to me than, you know, just getting like a base 15 because like 2 assholes on my team.
Yeah. Do you? Because I know last season I downloaded somebody made like basically a Excel document, and you could type in, you know, what match you played on, how big your stack was if you were playing alone, and how much your SR went down or up. So it was basically like it built itself to where whatever you plotted into the points, it graphed, and you could track, and you could see, you know, what times you played at, what times you played the best at, what maps you're the best at. I wish it, chose I wish you could do what character you played most of the map or something like that. So you could, but you kind of have that in game already. Do you feel like it's a good idea to pay close attention to your rating? Do you think it's that important of a thing? Because I know for a while, I was so close to going up to the next tier, and I almost would just rather play quick play and warm up a lot and then go in before I went to ranked. Or do you think it's kind of better off to just play ranked? It's going to rate you how you should be rated, and it's not something you should worry about.
I like the feeling of advancement and feeling like I'm getting better, and that's number is a relative measure of that. So if I start at 2,000 and then after some sort of months I'm at 3,000, I could probably tell I'm improving. So that's valuable to me. There's also within the community, it's good shorthand. I'm a master, I'm a diamond, I'm a plat,
Yeah.
And you can kind of identify that, and getting that title is kind of helpful. Well, not helpful, but it's nice to have. So if you're on a forum and you want to talk about something you feel like you have a good opinion about, maybe you can pull out your EP and say well, I'm a master, but, or I don't know, it's a good benchmark for skill, I feel more or less, and it's something I do want to gain.
I think it's quite problematic, and I had this discussion actually with a friend of mine recently, that he said basically that your motivation has to come from external factors. So how you as a social being, and humans being pack animals, so to speak, that your validation comes from your social surroundings, and that's what you strive for. And I think that is actually a sure way not to be happy with whatever you're doing, right? Yeah. Because the internet is the best showcase where you can safely say that won't bring you happiness. You see it with big public figures all the time, that they have to disable or hand off their Twitter account to some pawn because they can't handle the feedback they're getting, right? You can't value that feedback really. So I think intrinsic motivation or self-validation, if you can have this self-honesty, is much more important than and feeling that you have actually accomplished something and have become a better player is much more valuable than looking at a number and having it tell you. Obviously, if you're delusional about your own performance, then yeah, okay, this is also true for a lot of people. I'm not going to marginalize this issue, because obviously a lot of people think they're a lot better than they actually are. But
is it the Dunning-Kruger syndrome? Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
it was a big
yeah.
About between Dota and League, some psychiatrist and somebody posted on Reddit and talked about it and said that there's a lot of people in esports that have that problem.
Yeah, but Dunning-Kruger is a little bit different, and I think it's mostly applied to if you're someone that doesn't have any expertise in a certain field, it will look a lot easier to you on the surface, and you need to acquire a certain skill to realize just how difficult something is, right? So that's basically the Dunning-Kruger effect. So in the sense, if someone played 1,000 hours, is still silver, right? That's not where the Dunning-Kruger effect applies. I think that's a different phenomena. That's I don't know, cognitive dissonance or something. But
I mean, I bet there's plenty of people, even sometimes, I feel like I understand MOBAs and League of Legends and stuff like that a lot better. I feel like I can understand them while thinking about them, what I should do, but the mechanics of it don't always match up with how much research and knowledge you have on the game.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but basically you can't really appreciate just how insane, for instance, Faker, or if we put it to Overwatch, a Soon or a Taimu, or even the Miro is, unless you've played the game. It looks super, how hard can it be if you're, like, for a person that never got into PC gaming, he's like, how hard can it really be to point with a mouse onto a head, right? Should be way harder in real life, right? With a real gun, real recoil. But only if you get into it and see how hard it actually is, this muscle memory thing, that it's actually an acquired skill, then the strategical elements of it, pacing, game awareness in general, game sense. You can't have an appreciation of this on a deep level unless you've played the game a substantial amount. And even then, I think the better you are, the better you also become at appreciating top level plays in a sense. Not 100%, but I think it's a lot more intuitive for mechanical play when it's overwhelming, right? Not overwhelming, but very good. Like it's a lot easier apparently for people to see, oh wow, Taimu clicking heads is like that's super hard for me, and that's why he's so awesome in it. And it's not as apparent to most people to see, oh wow, Harry Hook pulled out here because he knew that danger was imminent, or some opponent will pick this certain angle at this point in time, and he had this awareness. This is a lot harder to acquire, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's an overall sense of. I don't want to make comparisons to MOBAs again, but it's just an overall sense of hours put into the game, plus just the talent, the ability, the muscle memory to put both the knowledge and the skill into place at the same time. Because plenty of people there's plenty of people probably in like gold plat area that could be, diamond level players at their very best, but it's the amount of time that they play at their very best, where it's like, if you think about all the mistakes that you make during one game, if you don't, or I mean, even during one season, if you didn't ever make all those mistakes, you probably might not be, Grand Master or something, but you might be high plat or like low diamond or something if you're high gold, medium plat, something like that. But it's the players at the high end, the people who are pros, they don't make those mistakes. They have, very, very small margin of errors because they put both time and they just have the mechanical skill into it.
Or they just make the least amount of errors compared to the community, because you still see a lot of errors that happen in professional Overwatch. Yeah. But like, if you measure it up against like a diamond player, it's like 3, something like that per player per map series. Like a diamond player is probably going to make some small goof per engagement, and then maybe a big goof or 2 per game. So yeah, it's this like strange understanding your own skill set and like overvaluing yourself.
Yes,
is very. It's like apparent in a lot of things. Not to get away from Overwatch, but you see a lot of like sports fans. You're like, oh, why did this like sports player do this and this? I mean, I would have known to do that. It's like. You wouldn't have, or like, okay, so you wouldn't have made that mistake. What other mistakes would you have made? So
obviously, yeah.
There's a lot that comes into it. I mean, knowing all the characters, knowing all the maps, knowing all the routes, having the mechanical skill, knowing the counters, the way that you work with your team. There's people who probably, memorize. I don't think you could. Do you think it's possible? Because I know in like MOBAs you could memorize cooldowns even though you couldn't see them, or people would even write down cooldowns really fast while they were dead or something. Do you think there's people that it's possible for them to estimate or guess how many times they've been hit to know how much ult charge the enemy team has?
Yes, absolutely. Not even just based on that, but just like general timing, because some characters just hit somewhat consistently. Soldier hits somewhat consistently. And if the shield's down, you can kind of estimate like, okay, he could. And if you're the healer, you can kind of estimate, okay, the Reinhardt got tore up like quite a bit. That soldier's probably pretty close. Or the Reinhardt was swinging his hammer in one of those engagements. He's probably pretty close to ult. You could definitely do that. There's also, back in Quake, people knew like the different timings of the different map resources, and they kind of like internalize it. Some use clocks. A lot of them didn't. They just like I don't know. They had like some sort of like Iron Man heart in them that like knew when 30 seconds was up, and then they would go get the mega, and that sort of stuff. I mean, that sort of game sense. I'm sure good players have, as far as like alts or even like abilities. Like is Nanonade? It has a fairly long cooldown. Was it like 11, 12 seconds, 10, something like that? And just being aware, like, I saw them pop it, and just knowing, like, the instant, like, Nanonade is up, like that sort of stuff. I'm sure good players know.
Most abilities is pretty. I won't say easy, but I know, if you see a hook go out, you internally in your head count to 8 seconds, and then you have that window to kill him.
Yeah.
It's not even just having the internal clock, so to speak, and because obviously sometimes it's very hard to see also have your teammates been hit, or you're not always in vision of everyone at every time, and flankers and everything. Obviously that's very hard to involve in your calculation, but there's also tells, right? There's certain player behaviors you see from the opponent where you think, okay, would he realistically do this unless he had ult? Right? Would he position himself there? Would he jump in like this? Or, like, for instance, what I have been noticing in my play is I play a shitload of Ana right now, and I've developed this sense of when a Reinhardt is going to go for a fire strike, just based on I cannot almost not articulate why there's so many different factors that go on. Like time, since like obviously the cooldown, but also the situation. Is my team firing at his shield? How is his shield? And just something in me tells me, okay, he's going to drop his shield. He's going to be greedy. Also, very much based on the player I'm playing, right? That is obviously like hiding your tells will also be a skill over time, right? But this is definitely something that high-level players are doing. And the more they play each other, like this is the most beautiful thing currently about FaZe at C9, where they constantly develop like a feeling for each other, where you really see like this is why they one up each other so often right now. It's like they learn to play this team, right? Not only strategically, but they know the kinks of the specific things. And this is one thing that really skillful players in all FPS or in team sports, esports do anyway. It's like you realize someone is very good if you not say, oh, Genji is up top, but Tivik is up top, for instance, right? Because that's a different quality. It's not just a Genji, possibly with an ult, but it's a Tivik Genji, or it's a Shadowburn Genji. That's very different, right? It's also in the communication between the teams, like, oh shit, it's actually Shadowburn. Extra caution. If it's like a run-of-the-mill Genji, that's a very different situation, right? Yeah. And that's the beauty. And this is sadly also lost on, I think, a wide area of the community. And this is, in a sense, it's really an acquired taste to watch these high-level games, really, I think.
Yeah. Which, I don't know if that's a good thing.
Yeah, but it's going to be it. I mean, it keeps the hardcore friends around, right? And then at some point, it's going to become normalized for everything single. Because this also happens in your favorite sport, by the way, right? Like your.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I know as an American, I should know who my quarterback is and shit like that, but I don't give a damn about mainstream sports, but I know my uncle knows the quarterback for every team in the United States and all this other stuff and blah blah, and he's watching how this this team runs this play, but this other team runs the same play, but they run it differently, and yada yada yada. But then there's the the rest of my family that sits down there go, oh hey, they made it into that big square at the end of the field, and there's still going to be those people who watch Overwatch that have that same idea. Oh, they died and they pushed the spaceship into the big circle at the end. Okay.
Yeah.
As far as acquired tastes go, I'll just start by saying my favorite things in the world to consume are acquired tastes like caffeine and at what time one time nicotine. You know, like those aren't things you start off going like yay,
No.
or beer. Like they're acquired tastes and some of my favorite things right now.
Definitely.
So they're great. But hopefully on that point, Overwatch has like a quality like American football does, where like you could sit and watch the masses can come and sit and watch the Super Bowl and like get something out of it, while like the hardcore fans can watch like college football and like really get into that and like look for like prospects for teams or whatever, or that sort of thing. Get
Follow
really in.
storylines.
Yeah,
Kids who come from college that make it to the pros, and yeah.
yeah,
The thing that I like is that, I mean, just the way that Overwatch looks right now. I'm not going to say the client, but the the blue versus red. That's always been a huge thing. I mean, you think WoW, Alliance versus Horde, Halo had it, red versus blue. It's actually, there's a game theorist video about it for anyone who's watching that knows that channel, who it's actually like a psychological thing where those two colors have always been at odds with each other for years. I mean, hundreds of years. And so to just instill that into people who don't know anything about the game, they get that it's red people versus blue people just because of the outlines. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, does CSGO have that? Just like when they cast tournaments, do they have the out? I know they have the outlines through walls, but
this is typically red outline, isn't it? It's been a very long time since I watched the CS cast.
It's something that's so because it's also I don't think it has outlines, but it's much easier to see who's where in CS:GO, right? It's not, the game is not fast enough to have like, front lines, so to speak, just completely switch. Nobody's actually passing each other in a battle, for instance, right? Like time to kill is way too low for that, so it's not that necessary.
The way that I was going with it is that everyone says CSGO is super easy to watch because, I mean, unfortunately, everyone in the world knows what guns are. You shoot, he dead, I'm alive, so I have to have won, right? And that's the advantage that Overwatch has. But then you look at something like League of Legends, where there's over 100 characters with 4 abilities plus each, but it's still the most played, and some people don't even play it. Some people just watch it. Or stuff like StarCraft, where people don't. I've never played it, but every time that something gets posted on Reddit, I'm like, wow, that guy's pretty. It's cool. I don't know what he's doing, but it looks cool. It's weird that something so complicated like League of Legends, whether people like it or not, it is a complicated game. Is so much more watched than something so simple as gun battles.
This is off topic, but I really wish that spectators...
We're way off topic at this point.
I wish the spectators had the option to change colors, because when I watch a cast and I see like a red friendly, my brain just explodes just from playing Overwatch so much that like my brain recognizes it as an enemy, and I can't contextualize like what I'm looking at. Like, I don't know, like yellow... Let's do green and pink. Let's do green and pink.
I think that would really mess with people who are colorblind.
The thing is, I remember in beta, I was only playing full stacks, like exclusively full stacks all the time, nothing else. And then there was a game where one of my friends somehow dropped from the party or something, right? And my brain actually couldn't figure out the outlines because he wasn't green anymore. So it's like, okay, I don't care about him that much. And as a healer, it's obviously awful, right? But that was just such a mindfuck that, I don't know, I realized that these colors are super important. And it actually also wrecks my brain sometimes, that how the color theme also that, in Overwatch, the opponent team is always a certain color. In esports, they want to keep the color for the entire best of 5, so they have the banners correctly and everything. But obviously, this is strange when you have the attack defend switch, right? So it's It's not. Also, obviously, these Twitch issues. I mean, they're mostly fixed now with the encoding, but it's still. I don't know if it's my stream quality, but it's still. It doesn't look crisp. The red for me, like the blue's a lot easier to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if we can kind of veer this back on topic a bit about the rank system, I guess the biggest thing that we kind of came across, correct me if I'm wrong, is that while it doesn't work as well as some people wanted it to, it is, I hate this saying, but I mean, it is what it is. You shouldn't go from being, 2,000 rating and then be completely reset and have a chance to get it, get to 4,000.
Oh.
There's you're probably not going to win those matches, and B, I don't know what they planned on basing it off of. Maybe one completely wiped, but at the same time, do you really want to be, for the people, this is for the people who think, well, I want a chance to completely reset my rating. You understand that with a good enough dice roll, you'd be put against Masters ranking people because they're being reset too, and you just get completely creamed.
No, they'd
get
Masters and then never play again. That's what would happen.
Yeah.
Get carried by a 5-stack of Master players, and then a Master.
Yeah, there's some people who that have might have that luck to get Masters players on their team.
I'm guessing this is an unpopular opinion, but I'm gonna say I really, really, really hate ladder resets in games. Like, they're a nightmare for me because matches aren't close. It takes a long time for like stuff to settle and get figured out, and in that time, shit sucks. I mean, you get some of the worst stomps either way. It's just not fun, and it's not worth the whole like fun of the gamble, in my opinion, to like go up against one-sided victories for 3-5 weeks maybe before like the ladder settles down. And then even then, maybe the ladder isn't like, how do you get a baseline at that point, at the placement point anyways, if everything's reset? I mean, what's it look like at the top end? I mean, does stuff have to, like, some games they just reset and everybody's the same rank. Sometimes that's the thing. And then like you have to grind to get to the top, and you're grinding whatever the heck you run across. Like you're seal clubbing, and then you're like getting hunted by pirates at the same time. And
I think the biggest vocal majority for people who are people who are advocates for a complete ladder wipe are people who believe in elo hell. The people who think that because they're in, I really don't think there's that many people in bronze, but it's the people who are in bronze or the people who are in silver who are, I mean, even like gold, people who are, I'm totally a plat player, or I'm totally like a diamond player, but I'm just getting trolls and I just don't know what to do, and I just keep getting people who leave games and blah 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 and all this other stuff, which statistically doesn't happen.
That's the worst thing about this entire debate, is that you just know these threads and their how they report how this thing has gone is obviously bullshit. Like, there's so much false impressions, and I don't even want to attribute malice to this. I just think that's their perception, right? You will always recognize stuff that you did well much more vividly than you would ever do, like the 9 mistakes you made before, right? And that's also what, like we talked before, it's like people recognize their peak and think, oh, that's my average, right? That, like, this is my best game and I could be like this always, but these people don't let me. No, motherfucker, you peaked that one game, and the rest of the games you're just as garbage as everyone else you're playing with. That's how the system works. And then there's no point in, trying to cry at a system and misrepresent it in community forums by saying, yeah, this is my, this is how it happened, this is my perception. And when in reality, it wasn't like this at all. But you're probably lying about the score. You probably misremember certain things to safeguard your ego. It's statistically, like, Blizzard isn't out for you, dude.
Yeah.
Like, there's like unless you really shit in front of someone's some developer door, there's no way you're actually being penalized for being you on the ladder system. Even though, that said, if you are the guy that posts on these community forums in this type of manner, you deserve it. You should be penalized in that way in your ranking.
What's funny is if you watch like master streamers and them playing ladder, you see the same throws, you see the same like stupid comps that you'd see in like platinum, diamond, lower. Like it's still kind of stupid if you're doing like solo queue. I mean, it's just, it is what it is. You don't belong in the rank you think you belong in. You belong more or less what the numbers say.
Yeah, people think that there's some, I guess it's the grass is greener syndrome. People think, I think Unit Loss made a video about this too, but that you think that there's going to be this area where if you just get to that next elo or the next tier, that everyone's going to be on comms and everyone's going to be like super focused and calling out areas and we're doing this and this and this and this. But no, I mean, if you watch people who are even masters, people pick Bastion and throw themselves off the map and do other stupid shit. But it just happens less often. Technically, yes. And people just make less mistakes. The DPS players, instead of, firing off and getting, hits but not killing, they're actually killing people. People actually make team comps. So I feel like it is towards the idea that people think it is, but it's not this magic holy land.
Here's how you climb ladder. I'm going to give everybody a wonderful secret. This is how you climb ladder. You pick the one character that's great in the meta that no one ever wants to play, and just pick him every single map, and just eventually you'll go up. Reinhardt? Who wants to play Reinhardt? He's a rectangle man. That's not a lot of fun. Pick him. Yeah. You need him. Pick Lucio. I mean, he's not a lot of fun. Pick him. You'll go up. That's all you need to go up.
Yeah. Yes. But also pick the character that's very easy to play, not just very good in the meta, but where you can fuck up the least, right?
That's true. Like if Pharah's in the meta and then you can't land a direct rocket, don't pick Pharah.
Yep.
I mean, they've said that a lot of the time people who are playing DPS characters are people who have played FPSs for the last 10, 15, 20 years. The people who have played MOBAs, if you have a better game sense of how, call outs and where people are on the map and, what combos should go together, you should really just be a support player, because you heal somebody, or if you're Lucio, you grind and don't die, and you're able to call out positions for your DPS players. You're able to do this, or if you're like a Zarya or a Reinhardt, you're able to set up for the people who can aim better than you can. Everyone always, in every single game, everyone wants to be that playmaker. Everyone wants to be the guy who has 30 kills and, whatever. But if you can't do it, I guess you can practice, but A, don't do it in ranked. And B, you have to realize that if you're just starting out, even if you played 5 hours of Genji, you're not immediately going to be, master tier Genji.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not the way that works out. So, yeah, just play the people that, you don't want to play. You don't have to butt heads with people and pick 3 DPS. Play a healer. You're going to lose the game if you don't.
Or if you have this itch to play, like, the DPS, pick a DPS-y tank at least, if there's already a DPS or 2 on the field. Probably going to work out.
Yeah. A lot of the time, too, more of a good cop mentality of it is really, I know I've had it a few times, like I mentioned earlier, just play. Just play ranked. Just it isn't number, it is not a number that you should fear. It's supposed to be a number that just tells you how you're doing. If you start at 2K and you have an extreme week and you go up to like 25K, or I guess 2,500, and then you fall back down and you're only at 2,250, you've still gained. You've still improved. Even though you had an extremely good week and then you lost half of that, you're still better than you were 2 weeks ago. So you just got to see that as an improvement over time.
Also, Overwatch actually offers a unique opportunity in that sense. It's that you technically don't ever have to look at your rating. The only thing that you probably will pick up is your league, so to speak, because of your icon. But you can leave before they show you the score, right? And you never have to look at your career profile. If you notice that your ego or your enjoyment of the game is bound to that, just don't ever look at it, right?
Yeah.
There's no issue. And there's no letter anxiety, you know. So
yeah, a lot of times too, people, especially now in the placement games, because people think they're so important, there'll be a lot of people yelling and being passive aggressive and things like that. If you really want to improve, mute those people. Just don't focus on them. If somebody starts, there's kind of two sides to this coin. If somebody gives you criticism, don't think that they're yelling at you. If somebody says, hey man, you're not doing well on DPS, please switch to a tank, we need one, don't mute them and, bullhead. But if someone's screaming on the microphone, go ahead and mute them and just do your own thing, try your best, ignore your score, and you'll improve over time. You just gotta have a level-headed mind, because a lot of people right now are being crazy. A lot of people are yelling and screaming and being toxic because their rank of Overwatch is like their life. That's what they, base themselves on.
Or get a 6-man and bypass 98% of that bullshit.
Yeah, that's true. There's plenty of Reddits that, put together teams, even just pub teams that just throw themselves together for a night.
Yeah, that was actually one of the best things about the lack of ranked, was that the OW, the Discord, had a shitload of pugs of pro players going on like day and night, both Europe and NA, where they just made lobbies and played 6v6, just random pickups, and they streamed it too. These were highly competitive games, actually also very fun to watch. It was pretty great. It's sort of like, in CS you have these face it things, where
like
pro
the
players,
in-house leagues.
Yeah, these leagues. And I mean, if somehow there was, a possibility for a launcher, obviously there's no way, but if Blizzard was to introduce something like this and attach a little prize pool to it, so for instance, every top 500 player is allowed to play, and then you qualify for this separate league or something, that would be super enjoyable to watch, I think. Just high quality games with mixed teams like all day long sounds awesome to me, right?
Yeah, I feel like that's a very big topic for another cast.
Yeah.
We've kind of went off topic a bit, but I guess the overall arcing theme is don't criticize something too much if you don't understand it very well, which I guess no one really does that much.
Yeah.
Nobody's out to get you. This, your ranking isn't something that it's something that you earn, basically. Is there any other topics you guys want to bring up before we wrap this up?
Just to add to this, I think there's very few people, even within Blizzard, that have a full picture of how this actually works. To be fair, there's like probably Jeff Kaplan and then the math wizards. They are sitting in their room, they're just figuring out their algorithms, and every once in a while, just Jeff Kaplan opens the vault to these creatures. It's like, yeah, we kind of want to reward McCrees if they do a lot of damage to people. Yeah, we got you. And then they code it into the algorithm, and he closes the lid again until next time.
Yeah, that's Blizzard's thing, is they just hand off the reins to, McCree was super good before, and then now Soldier's really good now. Everyone gets their turn. Okay. This was kind of, an open forum basis on just one big topic. If you guys have anything, if you guys have some crazy data to where Blizzard's out to get you because you were X ranking and now you're 1,000 less or something, let us know. If you guys have any thoughts on the system itself, or just the mentality of the ranked opinions that people are throwing out on the subreddit, if it's not currently dying right now as of before the cast, Reddit was down. Let us know. We love the Discord. We love people who come in and chat with us. Even if it's criticism, we'll have a battle with you guys in the comments. Do you guys have, Yiska, have any videos that you're working on that you want to privy people to, or is it too beta?
Nah, I'm actually going to okay. The order of things will probably be finish up the Watchpoint episode. Produce it, make the timestamps, put it on Reddit, and then probably either Saturday or Sunday. I'm trying to get the video out about a certain issue I've seen with the current power switch up at the top rankings where. Now Rogue has overtaken Envious, or at least beat them, and also how well Fnatic played, or how seemingly overachieved they have against especially NIP. And I kind of want to look at the implications of that and reasonings. And I wrapped it in an analogy, and I hope it's going to be entertaining, but we'll see.
Okay. Well, that about does us for this week. I think we have, we're all good for next week. I do not have an announcement for the topic yet, but we will see. We'll let you guys know via Twitter. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button on YouTube. It's the one that helps us out the most. And if you have any questions, feel free to tweet at us. Feel free to email us. All that information should be in the description below. We hope you guys enjoyed the cast and have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.
Good night.